Whew. Hello everyone. How you doing today? Welcome in YouTube land. Today I'm going to be working on a gift for a loved one, watercolor painting. I'll be doing a time lapse of that and invite you to come along and hang out. I'll get some commentary going as well as talk about the piece as I'm working on it. Thank you very much. Off to the other camera. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another time lapse. Hope everybody has been having a lovely time since the last video. So I got this project or this piece of art is something that I put together for a loved one. And he has some history in working on trains and bridges. So I kind of came up with the idea to do a little watercolor painting encapsulating those few ideas. Well, what can I say? I have been busy spending time with loved ones and spending time in nature. It's been a really cold season here where I live in Canada, and in the last week we had a big dump of snow, so trying to stay warm. And so as you can see here, I'm faintly drawing kind of some of the features that I want included in the painting, and that just helps guide where I'm going to lay down the colors later on in the painting. And usually what we end up doing is we lay down some ink kind of where all the subject matter is, and then erase the pencil, because sometimes the graphite and the pencil kind of muddies up the colors. And using my trusty little ruler there, that little ruler I used when I was doing school in engineering. So just funny how pulling out a little ruler reminds you of your past. So yeah, I'm drawing a train here. I did have just a brief look at what trains typically look like, the caboose part, and but then after that image I kind of and this is something that I do in all my art, is maybe I'll look at some reference just to get an idea and then kind of imagine that object as I'm drawing it. And I tend to find that kind of maintains more of an artistic feel to a piece of work, rather than it being hyperrealism, which is not a good or bad thing. It's just not a look that I'm always after. So I'm drawing this train. I've laid down some perspective lines, and just to make sure that things kind of make sense as we're drawing this out. And shortly you'll see me using ink to finalize some of the lines, and I'm using platinum carbon black ink when I lay down the ink work, and that is completely waterproof once it dries, so it's great for watercolors works where you want to have line work in the drawing. You can do it the ink after you lay down some watercolor, but sometimes I find that kind of clogs up a pen tip, so more often I'm going straight to ink, letting that dry before I go in with watercolor. And so yeah, this last little while has been a little bit busy for me. I've been trying to set up prints for my works, which is a little more effort than I initially imagined. And by the way, if you are interested in prints, check out my Instagram channel and send me a DM. I'll put a link to my Instagram in the video link description. And check out my Instagram and send me a DM if you're interested. I've got a small batch run of prints on certain things, and be happy to help if you're interested for the holidays. So yeah, it's been very, very cold here, and I tend to have a really full beard during the winter and try to hunker down and stay warm. It's soup and hot chocolate and hot tea season, which is always welcome. I'm the type of person that appreciates seasonal change. You know, even if it's not the most comfortable weather, there's something about the passage of seasons that makes me, I don't know, feel alive, I guess. And you're watching the world change as the weather changes. And it's, winter is a really cozy time for artists, I think, where, we are in our studios or sitting at our place where we like to draw and or work, and it's just a cozy vibe. So here you can see the ink that I'm putting down. I'm using actually the back side of the pen, the pen nib. I'm not writing, I'm not doing these lines, using the pen in its normal upright. I'm flipping the pen nib on its back side. And although that can cause the ink not to flow as smoothly, it does allow for a finer line. And on the first pass of this ink work, I just like to have fine lines. This drawing took about, in total, about 2 hours to do, between kind of getting an idea put together and finding the materials and thinking about the colors, and then doing the drawing and painting. And for me, and I've said this many times before, is art is a means to just heal from an ongoing health challenge that I have. And for a while I'm able just to focus on the task at hand, and I get a little bit of reprieve, and I really do enjoy doing art. And I invite you all to, if you aren't dabbling in art, and you're just waiting for the right time, let's say, I'm gonna say the right time is tomorrow or today. Just grab a pencil set and some paper and practice and see what kind of comes out of you, and hopefully there's some joy that comes with exploring your creative side. So yeah, I've been out in nature quite a bit and trying to center myself with respect to the ongoing needs of life, and reflecting on the things that are present in my life, and having gratitude, and it's all very healthy and helpful. And that's the other thing I would suggest is, more and more we're being, let's say, forced isn't the right word. I think the right term is we're having to choose to stay in a lot more, whether it's because we are working from home, for those that have work from home capabilities. And, even if you're not working from home, obviously many of us come home to spend time with our families and, let's call it, decompress from the day. And I think that's all good and well, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't get out and try to socialize and get perspective from people around us about the world. So, yeah, you probably saw me erasing. So at this point, things are pretty dry. I'm coming in with a very fine liner here instead of my pen, and just adding a couple details of element. And one thing to keep in mind is with when you put down your ink, I've kind of gotten enough experience to watch out for it as I'm doing it. But with ink, it's better to work from the foreground to the background of the drawing, because once you lay a line down on the foreground, you can't cross through it if the thing is if the next thing that's behind it isn't in the background, and it obviously doesn't look right. So just a little thought is, it's good practice to lay down your ink work from foreground to background until you have let's say good knowledge of composition and line work. So the colors that I'm using on this, I try to constantly use a limited palette, because when you have too many different colors on the piece of art, it doesn't really harmonize too well, especially with nature colors. There's a lot of averaging that kind of happens from what we see, and things off into the distance kind of have a blue shade because of you're seeing the atmosphere. You're looking at something really far through the atmosphere, which tends to cool in color temperature things down off in the distance. And so the colors that I'm using for this are let's see, we used a cerulean blue for the sky. I used a phthalo green blue shade, and that's for like a lot of the distance, the trees off in the distance. So it's a green, but it's leaning more towards blue. So for the trees kind of in the background, there's a blue, it's a blue shaded phthalo green. I used crimson red for the train, and essentially a neutral gray for the black. And then every color intermixed is using those sort of four colors so that it's all kind of harmonizes. And I guess I also should mention I used some what's that yellow? Not Hansa yellow, but a warm yellow. When I'll put it up on the screen when I remember the name here after editing. And just kind of for a rusty sort of look on the bridge, I used actually just used a burnt sienna, which is kind of a reddish brown color, and just added some yellow to make it kind of look rusty. And once you have the idea in your mind of what something you want something to look at, it's literally just a matter of paint by numbers at that point. Once you once you have the drawing put together. And it's slowly coming into shape here. Obviously, it's a train going down this bridge somewhere in a remote part of Canada. I kind of wanted it to look a little bit like Alaska. And I'm happy with how it looks at this point. And with watercolor, sometimes it's better to work a little bit fast because things change as they dry down. The colors kind of darken, and if you want a look to be, how do we say, a little more blended and a little more combination of colors rather than a paint by number, you want to work a little bit fast so that the paint you lay down blends with the other paint that you're putting down as you go. And let me see what else has been happening. I'm enjoying my time putting these YouTube videos together. I know the cadence isn't very often, but I'm trying to manage the priorities as they are set out to me, and that is my health and time with my loved ones, and trying to get my, it's kind of like, how do you explain it? The Humpty Dumpty kind of story makes sense. I just feel like I've fallen off this wall and I'm just sometimes just broken, and I'm trying to put these pieces back together. And, it's not as easy as just grabbing a little bit of glue and looking at the pieces and trying to put them together. It's taking a lot more effort than I thought it would to get healthy again. And in the meantime, I'm doing these sorts of things to lighten the heart and the mind. And hopefully the person that receives this enjoys it. So just to give you some info on the materials I'm using, I'm not using any sort of special watercolor paper here. It is not a heavy grade. I think it's a 340 pound paper, and that's basically, there's a grams per square meter or pounds per however many feet of watercolor paper. And typically the more higher quality papers are heavier, and they allow you to work wet on wet techniques a lot better. I'm using just a mid-grade paper here. And the materials that I'm using are Daniel Smith artist material. My goodness, are their paints high quality? Very happy. A little bit goes a long way. And suggestion, if your budget allows you to do it, get the artist grade, not the student grade of, you could pick any brand, Winsor, Newton, Amsterdam, Daniel Smith. There's a whole bunch, but my suggestion is to try to buy the artist grade. You get typically more intense products, and they are more consistent in how you work with them. So here I am, just adding some contrast with a fine liner and a pencil, just to make the stuff in the foreground pop a little bit more. If you imagine kind of a scene where you're looking off into the distance, you won't see all the lines and details of things off in the distance. You'll see kind of edges, but that's typical for how we look at the world, and by virtue of the way our vision works. And so just another reminder is, if you're working on foreground elements, that's where you want most of your detail to appear, because although the detail exists in real life off in the distance, our brains aren't capturing all of that. And if you try to capture all that detail, in the background. It just tends to make things look less artistic, maybe in more more like an illustration. So I'm working away with the fine liner here and having a lovely time. I've been listening to some jazz music, so I'll put the same music in the video here. And I've always approached art with kindness to myself. I imagine that I am doing the best possible work that I can every day. That's with the skill set that I have and the time that I have, and I don't spend time comparing my works to others. I do spend time enjoying other people's works, but if you're going to be an artist of any capacity, I suppose things are going to be a lot easier if you are kind to yourself and just let things take hold however they do, and don't worry about the end result. And month after month things can change, and maybe you can see if you're improving or not, and that's all that really matters. So thanks so much for spending some time with me today. Hope you enjoyed the music and the content. If you enjoyed your time, feel free to subscribe. There's going to be art videos and lifestyle discussion videos and growth and well-being videos that I'm going to be putting out. So I invite you to subscribe if you enjoyed your time. I'm a small channel. Feel free to share or share a link to my videos if that might help the community grow. And I'd love to hear any comments in the video. So feel free to put some comments in. All right, YouTube land. Well, thank you for spending some time. This is the finished drawing. My camera isn't on autofocus. I'll grab a pic of it and put it in the video when I edit it. I had a great time drawing this gift for somebody. It all comes off the mind, and as I've said before, it tends to make things look a little more artistic, more natural when you don't have too much of a reference. Of course, I needed a reference for the colors of the train and the general shape of the train, but I think it turned out well. In total, this took me about, let's say, I think it took me about 2 hours to do. The time lapse is probably only 10 minutes, but it was just a lot of fun having you here and joining in on the drawing. If you enjoyed your time here, it would mean a lot if you subscribed and shared it amongst people that you know that might like the vibes and the content. As always, wish you all a lovely day. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others, and everything should work out a-okay. Take good care, everyone. Bye-bye.